Hello, everybody. It is Sarah Longley, host of Unmuzzled. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a great guest. I'm going to just get to it because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time. Kelly is here. She's the Senior Director of Science Communications with Morris Animal Foundation. And first of all, welcome, Kelly. I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I feel like anytime we can use this podcast to educate people is amazing. But obviously, what you do links back. And for those of you that listen to this podcast, you know that we talk about animals with cancer a lot because I run the foundation, Live Like Rue Foundation for Animals with Cancer. And Morris Animal Foundation does constant studies on cancer and so many other things. So Kelly, before we get into it, can you just tell me your background? Because amazing your title, but you obviously have a love of not just animals, but the science around them. So how that all come about?
Yeah, 100%. Well, by training, I'm a veterinarian and I practiced veterinary medicine here in Denver. I'm a specialist. So I was an internal medicine specialist here in Denver for about 25 years. And I've been with Morris now about 12. I actually knew about Morris Animal Foundation because when I was in practice, like a lot of folks, I donated money if a patient passed away, especially if it was cancer related. I also had a grant from Morris at one point to do some research. And now I do a lot of their communications, but I also do some grants administration stuff as well. And I go out and talk a lot about our golden retriever lifetime study.
Yeah, which we're going to get to, and I cannot wait because just reading about it on the website, it's incredible. I mean, it's just amazing work. So as I was researching, I had no idea this foundation has been around so long. So just give us a little bit of the mission and how long it's been around, how it was founded. And then we'll get to some of these amazing studies.
Sure. Yeah, we've been around a long time. So since 1948, I mean, just crazy long time. And we were started by, we are not Morris the cat, which we always get. People are like, are you Morris the cat? No, we're not. We were started by a veterinarian named Dr. Mark Morris Sr. And Dr. Mark Morris Sr. was a veterinarian in practice. And he was one of the first guys back in the 1920s to have an exclusive small animal practice because, as everyone knows, before then, the emphasis was a lot on large animal. And as he was practicing, he was concerned because he felt like there just wasn't a lot of scientific research on problems affecting animals. Sadly, as we know, there was plenty of research on animals that benefited people, but not something that would address their specific problems. His claim to fame, though, is he developed the original Hill's KD diet. So if you guys know anything about prescription diets, and most of us pet owners do, you probably have seen or heard about prescription diets, and certainly Hill's, right? It's one of the bigger companies that makes prescription diets. Well, he made KD diet that he formulated himself, and his wife was cooking in their kitchen. And Louise said, okay, I have enough of this, because he was getting orders from people all over the place. So he found a packing company in Topeka, Kansas named Hill's. And that's how Hill's was started. And then Dr. Morris took some of the royalties from those very first few cans, but it was a lot of cans, of KD. And that's how we got our endowment. And he started Morris Animal Foundation from that. So it's a crazy story.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, and just look how much good has become of that. I mean, it's insane when you think about it. So 170 million, that may even be more now. I got that from the website, 3,200 plus studies. If you think about how many animals that affects, not directly, but indirectly, it is amazing work. So just if you can take us a little bit behind the scenes of the day to day, and then we'll get to the golden research, because I just love it. It's just amazing. But the day to day, what is the day to day like? Obviously, you're getting data all the time. You're sending out studies. You're reporting back. But what is kind of your day to day like?
Yeah, our day-to-day is basically we're a granting organization. So what we do is we have calls, we have several funding buckets. We do cats, dogs, horses, and wildlife. So we have those funding buckets. On a given day, we are managing, right now we have 270 active grants, which is a lot, in addition to the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study, which is something different. And what we do is raise money from individual donors. And then we advertise, hey, we've got a grant call for, we just went through our cats. For cats, all topics, send us your proposals. And then we convene a board of outside experts that come in that evaluate each of these grants. And then we choose some for funding. And then the day-to-day for us is really managing those grants, getting reports in, taking a look at them, and again, just doing the day-to-day management. And as we get into the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study, that's a little different for us because it's the only grant we've ever managed internally. Again, most of the time we get grants, the vast majority are in vet schools. We fund globally. So we have right now, I think 20 some different countries that we're funding studies in. And again, so we have a really, really big reach.
Yeah, I was looking at the website with all the different species, and like it's really an amazing map when you see everywhere that you have touched. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, tell us. So 3,000 golden retrievers are in the life study. So tell us what this is, because this is a longer study, obviously, that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's really different. And so it was actually the brainchild of a couple different people. It was Dr. Rod Page, who is now retired, but was at the time an oncologist at Colorado State University. Betty Morris, who is the widow of Mark Morris Jr., and Dr. Patty Olson, who was the CEO and president at the time. And what they recognized was, unlike what we have in people, where there are a lot of these big studies that go on for years and years. There was the Harvard Men's Study, Framingham Heart Study, which is actually still going. There are women's health studies. There's a whole bunch of them, right? And the idea was to follow individuals over a long period of time. And the goal was to look for risk factors for cancer in dogs. So that was the basic kernel of information that we wanted to obtain. Unfortunately, as many people know, golden retrievers have a particularly high incidence of cancer. And so they were chosen as the dog to study. And we knew that we wanted to look at outcomes. And in order to look at outcomes and say, you know what, I think this is significant, you need enough subjects. And that's how we arrived at the number of 3,000. It wasn't just like arbitrary. It was actually selected because we knew that if we had that many dogs and we found something like some kind of risk factor for cancer or other finding or other disease, that 3,000 would give us enough power, is how we talk about it with the study. Like we are adequately powering the study that if we found something, we could say, you know, I think this is significant.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, and to see the results and to get results back. So the biggest thing is you need, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but how do people get into the program? They have to apply through you. The Golden Retrievers owner applies through you, and then they're sending you samples and data. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. We're actually closed to recruitment. So we recruited from June of 2012. We reached 3,000 in March of 2015. Dogs had to be between 6 months of age and 2 years, so 24 months, right, when they applied. And that's exactly it. They applied. They had to have a veterinarian sign off, right? Veterinarians got to do a lot of work too. Yeah. And what people do then is every year they would go in for an annual exam. Before they go in, they fill out a big giant questionnaire online. And then we send them a kit, a sample, you know, like here's a kit with some empty tubes and stuff. And they take it to their veterinarian. The veterinarian collects blood samples, urine, feces, hair and nails. I feel like I'm missing something else, but lots of blood, I will say. And then they send those samples to a biobank. Then that veterinarian also fills out an online questionnaire. So we have right now about 700,000 samples in our biobank. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And millions of data points, right? Because there's like hundreds of questions. People do that every year. If their dog develops a cancer, we ask them to do a little extra work. We ask them to get extra samples. We ask them to send us samples of the tumor, which we send to our that's also biobanked. And sadly, when these dogs pass, we have asked people, can you go have a full postmortem exam done, more sample collection, more filling out some questionnaires by the veterinarian who does the postmortem exam. And that's also stored for us. And for a long time, people weren't that interested. Like, the dogs are cruising along. They're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age, right? Everybody's pretty healthy. Once we started to lose dogs from cancer, which was about between 6 and 7, we first saw the spike going up, and then it was rapid, right? We had a big increase in the number of dogs that developed cancer. We know we have 1,800 deceased dogs. We also have some dogs who have dropped out for a variety of reasons, or that we've lost. There are like 400, 500 some that are what are considered inactive. So we actually are below 700 dogs remaining. Our oldest dogs we just lost our very oldest, who was in her 15s. We have, I think, 3 in their 14s, lots of teenagers, but our youngest dog is like 11 and a half. So they're pretty old golden retrievers, right? So this isn't unexpected. And they're dying of a variety of things. It's not all cancer. But we did see that rapid increase in cancer. Now that the dogs are older and we've been going for a long time now, we have researchers who are reaching out to us, and they ask us, and they also have to apply. We don't just give stuff out willy-nilly, right? Because some of these samples are really precious. And we make them apply, and they have to give us a proposal, like, here's what we're going to do with the samples, here's what we're going to look at. And as you've probably seen online, like all of a sudden we have a lot of people doing all different kinds of research, mostly cancer, to be honest, right? That's one of the main focuses, and it's one of the main focuses of the study. But one thing we're learning over time that we didn't think about in the beginning is it's really also an aging study now. Because we're losing dogs not always to cancer when they get into their late teens, but because of age-related disease, right? Like they got arthritis so bad they're having trouble walking. They have cognitive changes, just like we get when we get older. They have other diseases that are starting to creep in that are impacting their quality of life. So we kind of sometimes talk about it as an aging study, because the number one risk factor for cancer is age, right? It still remains, which is like so obvious. Sometimes you'll forget it, but it's still part of that. It's really, we're probably going to go for a couple more years is what we're talking about. But those samples and the data are going to be around a really long time, right? So we're going to have to maintain this biobank and the data and still have some people available to help researchers. But yeah, it's crazy. Like when I started, I think we had like 500 dogs, and we're all worried about, are we going to get 3,000? We're going to get 3,000. And then it's like snowballs, right? And then all of a sudden we were turning people down at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a pet owner, just to be part of that and know that you're helping for future pets is like, it gives me chills just thinking about how cool that is, And then I guess too, like, so is it you, not you, but is it Morris then doing a lot of the analytics? I know you're getting requests from outside, but are you kind of, because I know it probably takes a long time to see, okay, what do we think this dog passed away from cancer, but was it environmental? Was it nutritional? Was it genetic? Like, that probably takes a while to figure that out, if you can even figure it out.
Right. And we I would say the majority is outside right now. We would love to do more, but we're kind of also running around packing boxes and things like that. But we do have a couple people on the study who are looking at, they have their own little research projects, but we've also kind of outsourced, right? We have researchers coming to us. We actually made a really interesting partnership with the Royal Veterinary College in London. They have a really, really big epidemiology group. So again, looking at patterns of disease. And they have a bunch of students basically with a mentor who, and they've each taken one of our major cancers. So hemangiosarcoma, lymphoma. They just finished, they're doing mast cell tumor, histiocytic sarcoma, and they're looking at our data. And they're also rolling in some data from the United Kingdom because they're pretty interesting in the UK. They have a unified, or a lot of, put it this way, a lot of practices use the same software. And they can tap into it, right? Like
it's so nice,
right? And so they're tapping into their data from the UK, kind of pulling our data in and looking at patterns, because there are a lot of questions out there. I hear all the time. You may hear it. Oh, dogs in Europe don't get cancer as much, or Goldens in Europe, and that's not quite true. We're not sure that we're really seeing it. However, they provide a cool database to compare to. We also needed some dogs to act as controls, which sounds weird, but you need dogs to live to old age, right? Like, especially for the genetics piece. If you want to look at what, we think of like BRCA1, BRCA2 genes, like there's all kinds of genes that we as humans have that may predispose us to cancers. And to look at dogs, which is a big, big area that a lot of our researchers are really into, right? Can we identify a gene? Can we breed it out? Could we at least know risk factors? You need dogs that live to old age, right? And for a while, I'll be honest, we struggled with it. We couldn't provide control dogs to our researchers because they're like, oh, we want your cancer data. And we're like, yeah, but we don't know if a 7 or 8 year old dog that doesn't have cancer won't develop it later. So we're not sure if that's a good control. And that actually bedeviled us for a little bit of time. We ended up asking people with really old Goldens to give us a blood sample so we could get DNA from them, assuming that they were not going to develop cancer. But that was a toughie for a couple of years, trying to solve that problem, but we got it solved. And now we have those teenagers I told you about, and they're really important because they provide, again, a control. You need somebody who didn't develop cancer if you want to find like a genetic risk factor. Same with the environment, right? You need dogs that live but the environmental stuff, we have a couple people, University of Wisconsin at Madison, really strong group in environmental exposure and health outcomes. And so they're doing a lot of research, not just with us, but internally they've done a lot over time, looking at especially lymphoma. With that, we have some people, I hate to say it, we're in the West here, in Denver, a lot of wildfires, right? We have a couple of people, we actually have one group that's looking in horses, but the same group is looking at wildfire exposure for our golden retrievers, because we have them spread across the country, and looking at whether smoke exposure influences their health outcomes.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's things that you know exist and happen, but it's sometimes hard to put it all together, so that's amazing. I love that.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. And then for you, this is like it's kind of like what I do. It sometimes is tough. Like it can be a little bit of compassion fatigue. I mean, especially, even though you might not have met all of these dogs in person, you have known them now for many years. That part of it is probably pretty tough too, to be like following a dog's story and get to know the pet parents, and then you see them almost through to the end in every aspect of the animal's life, really.
Right. It's really tough for our team that mans all the call center stuff, because they often are the front line of people calling, like, I have a dog that's now been diagnosed with cancer, or I have a dog that's died, and what do I need to do? And we've started to provide brief resources for the pet parents that we know, and we try to do some good self-care internally too, because it does get, and as we've seen an acceleration in dogs dying, they're averaging, well, I don't know, like 5 to 10 dogs a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really rough.
That's hard
for our team taking that all in, right? So they have to do a little bit of self-care to be like, okay, doing this. And again, getting other folks to help us with some of that. We have, I am sure a lot of people listening have used home euthanasia folks, right? There's a lot of groups that do that. We have them, we work with some of them to help provide grief, and also for other our participants. It's pretty intense. You're right. It's really, really intense, both for the staff and for obviously the pet parents, because they've been pretty involved with us. The super cool thing is we have so many people in our Facebook, et cetera, who, even if their dogs have passed, are still really active in the study community, providing support and resources, and it's amazing.
That is huge. I always say the community that we've built with Live Like Rue, the people that have suffered some really tough losses, they still hang out on our support page, and they still, there's people that have brand new cancer diagnosis in their pet, and they're right there to help them through that. And that's somebody really strong to do that, for sure. I know for you, you're a nonprofit. So for those of you listening, the drill. Like, if you're listening and this is a nonprofit, your donations are tax deductible. For Live Like Rue and for this foundation, again, she said they rely on the public to help them with these donations and to help other pet parents and the research. It doesn't always have to be a pet. They do amazing research. Go check out their website, Morris Animal Foundation. If you're watching, you can see the link at the bottom. I'll also post it in the description if you're listening to the podcast. But yeah, really important, Kelly, for people to donate. They can set up a monthly donor program I saw on your website. Is there anything else that people can do? I mean, I know for us, like, just sharing content is huge.
Absolutely. Getting the word out is always really hard. And your experience, like, oh my gosh, you've been around 77 years or almost 78, and I've never heard of you. That's the issue, right? Yeah. When we compare ourselves to other foundations, I think a lot of animal-based foundations, whatever that is, like Live Like Rue, us, Every Cat Health Foundation, we are tiny compared to and we're in a big space with a human, and that's not to detract from any human illnesses, but it's hard to break through that chatter, right? And it's so important, if you love animals, to be able to find places that need help. And we need help. We turn way more grants down than we are able to fund, sadly.
Yeah, I always tell people, unfortunately, we have more people needing help than donors. It's just the way it is. Especially, we talked about how rampant cancer is now. It's really sad. And with the state of the world, unfortunately, people, they have to feed themselves. So, helping with bills is amazing. So thank you for everything you do, from the research to the grants to all of the information on your website is just remarkable. So please, everyone, go check it out. Again, it is at the link that I posted inside of the description of the podcast. You can also see it on the bottom of the screen right now. And I will be becoming a monthly donor, as I do with all of my podcast guests. But Kelly, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you do.
It was great being on, Sarah. We should come on again. Like, give us another year.
Yeah,
we'll have some more findings, because we have some really exciting studies that are from the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study in progress. And we can even talk about our other cancer studies. We've had studies too. So,
and even I was looking at the dolphin studies. I mean, it's really important for people to know, it's not just dogs and cats. It's and everything. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. Morris Animal Foundation. Check them out. Just amazing work they do. I ironically found them because they had granted somebody that had applied for assistance with us some funds. And I was like, oh, why have I not heard of this amazing foundation? I need to have somebody on the podcast. I reached out a day later. Kelly replied, Sarah, I'm in. It was awesome because I obviously got to learn so much just from the website, but then to have Kelly on here was amazing. So thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. I'm going to be back next week with even more guests. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.